My name is Matt Taylor. I'm the APAC RevThink advisor, and today we're going to begin unleashing your AQ. Now, all you need for this workshop, as I said, is your brain, a big piece of paper, and your favorite writing implement. There's going to be music throughout it, so if you like wearing headphones, it's headphone appropriate, but you do whatever you need to do to feel comfortable. We're going to do a series of short exercises. I'm going to start putting your sense of taste into words and explore how your aesthetic intelligence can guide that most important thing that we put off the most, which is our sales and marketing strategy. Now, I know from my experience as a former studio owner and as someone who also does sales and marketing every week, it's a total grind. It's a numbers game, and sometimes it feels like the most thankless thing in the world. But I think it's one thing we all need to get a grip on now because the industry is changing more than ever on multiple fronts. Post and VFX is changing. What an ad agency or a broadcaster is changing. The global economy is definitely changing, and AI is no longer taboo, and it's out there. And I think in the wise words of Mike Tyson, right? I think that right now responding to all this change makes everyone feel that everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. A lot of creative firms are feeling that punch right now. They're losing pitches, they're chasing budgets, and they're watching long-standing strategies fall flat. But when I was down in Melbourne at Matt Packwood's event 2 weeks ago, this comment I heard from a studio and it really stuck with me, which is like, we're not in the pretty pictures business. We're in the change business. And change is probably what gave you your break in the first place. There was something changed, be it technology, be it clients' behavior, be it your skill levels. And I think change has probably been the only consistent in your career. And so in times of change, you need to be able to think on your feet and you need to come up with quick, authentic responses. And you need to be able to talk clearly and simply. Because we're also in an age of noise. Studios that hate marketing and yet work in it often get worn out by the stream of generic garbage filling LinkedIn, thinking that the only way they can ever compete is to try and outdrown the internet. And that's never going to work. But in 2025, clients' needs have changed. And conversion doesn't come from clever phrases. It comes from clarity, confidence, and the ability to lead a real-time conversation. So today we're going to tap into your sense of taste. And when I say taste, I'm referring to the input all five of our senses, not just our tongues. And the good thing is, I think everyone on this call has a lot of taste, probably dripping out of their eyeballs and their ears. And your taste, I believe, is your compass. It's guided every creative choice you've made so far, whether you realize it or not. And now it's time to turn your instinct into influence. I don't know how many people speak French on this call, but this quote from the 17th century French lawyer Jean Broulat-Severin translates as, "Show me what you eat and I will show you who you are," which has been bastardized into "you are what you eat." But I think that the quote is bigger than that because the underlying idea that he was getting at is that you are the sum of all the experiences of your life so far, all the playlists, all the films, all the sounds, the sights, the feelings. Every experience you've consumed so far forms a rich tapestry woven of the threads of your taste and your identity. And your sense of taste, what I love about it is it's been with you all along. It's been learning and developing. It's been keeping you entertained, but it's also been keeping you alive. It's your sense of taste that knows when a berry is poisonous and also knows who to trust, all based on your past lived experience. And it knows what's going to improve your life or what will kill you. Your sense of taste tells you what's inherently right or wrong, which in the abstract, nebulous, creative industries is an all-important skill that we take for granted. Joe Burns from Strategy Meets Creative, who's been writing a lot on LinkedIn about taste, says that with the oversaturation of content today, the bar to mediocrity is dropping on a daily basis. So the ability to discern and curate is becoming the most important skill. And Rick Rubin, the man with the big beard, freely tells everyone that he has no technical ability at all, and he knows nothing about music, yet he's been one of the most sought-after music producers of the last few decades. He feels that his presence in the studio isn't to dictate, but it's to sense, and it's to listen deeply, to cut away the noise until the essential emerges. I feel your taste is more art than science, but it's governed many decisions in your life and your career. So what we want to start doing today is to look for the consistencies in the work you do and you don't do. What are the words to describe your studio or your just personal creative brand's secret sauce and your creative visions? It's not about chasing trends, but what we want to start doing is start developing the confidence to articulate your point of view and the creative language to help your team and your clients see it too. But first, you need to know and believe your words. Because not only will some well-chosen words sell a million pictures, but describing clearly what you imagine now makes pictures as well. So even though all of us here probably associate as visual communicators, putting in the time to play around with words and find the ones you actually want to use is going to remove the fluff, the jargon, and the guesswork from how you want to communicate with the world. And so this is where developing a strong aesthetic intelligence comes in, and what we're going to start building today. Building your ability to understand, to appreciate, and connect abstract design experiences so you can communicate their value to other people. So you can lead with vision, not just visually, but verbally too. So let's start here. Let's start with the work you love. These are going to be short exercises. There's a lot of music to kind of guide you through. As I said before, it's a bit like musical chairs. And I believe that I want to keep this short and fast so you can start to push through the words you normally use and maybe come up with something that you wouldn't normally use. Again, I don't want you to think too hard, and there's going to be lots of things coming quickly. So go with what comes first. So to begin with, let's go back to the work you love and let's think about what was the match that lit your fire. So I'd like you to close your eyes and I'd like you to think back to the film or the cartoon or the link that someone sent you that made you want to get into this difficult and challenging industry. So sure, you've seen lots of cool films as a kid, but what was the thing that you saw or you heard or you experienced that hit you with a bolt and made you say, I want to get paid to do that? Thank you for actually closing your eyes, Sophia. I appreciate you going along with it. Now, don't write anything yet, but just think, what was this thing playing on? Was it playing on a TV late at night? Was it playing on a grainy Windows media file someone emailed you? Where did you see it? Did you watch it on the sly at a job that you hated? Did you see it at a film festival? Did you see it at art school? Did you see it at your friend's house? And what clicked? What made you suddenly think, I could do that as a job? If you need to get a still of this film or something just to remind you what it looks like, please do. So for me, like seeing Akira for the first time showed me what animation could be. I was 16. I saw it at the crumbling old Art Deco Valhalla Cinema on Glebe Point Road in Glebe, which is in Sydney. It was the art house cinema that showed all the best things. And I think like if I was to put into three words what it was that got me, it was just so vivid. It was hyper real. It was gritty. And the way those rear vision lights on the motorcycles animated stuck with me for a very long time. But now when you think about the match that lit your fire, think back to what it was like when your mind was still buzzing. Imagine having seen it, and imagine walking out and you bump into your friend. They haven't seen this thing, and they probably won't, unless you can convince them how incredible it is. So imagine as you are with your youthful exuberance, you're convincing your friend that they need to see this film. They really need to see this film. You just got to explain to them how amazing it is. So I'd like you to write down three unrelated adjectives about how this thing that you saw made you feel. Try not to use the word awesome. I think that we're all creative and articulate people and we can stretch ourselves beyond that. So, you might say captivated or transported or contemplative. But I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Come up with three adjectives about how this made you feel. Now tell them in three unrelated adjectives how it looked. Remember, this friend of yours, they have no idea. They don't watch the stuff you watch. You watch weird things. You watch things that other people haven't seen. You're a creature of immense taste and you're into all sorts of weird stuff. So describe the style of this incredible piece of media that they need to see. Again, let's try to push our vocabulary beyond the word awesome, unless it was truly awesome. But even then, you're going to need to give me two more words. So describe its style, sell it to this person. Was it intense? Was it moody? Was it futuristic? You tell me. So it's been a few weeks now, and you've been telling anyone who will listen about this amazing thing you saw. You've come to the conclusion that this is what you want to do for the rest of your life. So you go home and you tell your parents why you need to drop out of uni or quit your shitty job and immediately get a start in your new career because you found your purpose. You found your thing. What was it that moved you so deeply about this thing that made you want to dedicate your life to it? Don't overthink it. It could be, I'd never seen 2D animation like that before. But I'd like you to write a short sentence. Try to keep it to just 7 or 8 words. What is it that makes you want to do this for the rest of your life? So now, just because I've got these people in my camera, but Carl, what lit your fire?
Oh, the initial, I would say, was a Cowboy Bebop marathon watching all, was it 26 episodes in a row?
Oh my God, in one hit.
Yeah,
And where were you when
straight through.
who'd you watch
Uh,
that with?
Nobody. I was just alone at in college, having a rough time of it actually, and that series just like really hit home. There's just so much catharsis in watching it.
And was that on DVD or was that on was that streaming?
Yeah, yeah. I think it was DVD. Had to be DVD.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what got you about Cowboy Bebop? What made you push through 26 episodes?
I mean, I think in terms of like how it episode by episode, I'm not sure. I just probably didn't know what else I wanted to do at the time, but I think what I loved about it was like how like it was a wonderful balance of like cavalier nature. There's a lot of grittiness to it, but it was also very deeply human and like that desire for something that you can't quite get. I thought that there it was a really beautiful way to explore that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing. Anita, you've got your camera on, so I'm hoping that you might want to share your what lit your fire? What got you started?
I knew you were gonna choose me. It was actually like a lot in my mind at the time. I wasn't expecting that to go back that far. Definitely like neon lights every time, like like photography and neons and architecture always go back to the design
Yeah.
I used to do. So anything. Yeah, I would say like letters and then the colors, the
Oh,
abstract of the like cities too.
oh, cool.
I
Was
don't
there a
know.
particular city that you love?
Where I'm from Poland, but like Miami City, New York.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Oh, cool.
I haven't been to a lot of places, so
Thank you for sharing.
you're welcome.
Well, let's put that aside and let's keep going. So I want you to come back to the present. What have you seen recently that stuck with you and reminded of what great looks like? What was the last thing you saw that made you want to try harder and to be better at what you do? Because it inspired you and showed you that there's a higher bar. What was the last thing you saw that made you grit your teeth and curse under your breath and say, I wish I did that. That was that was too good. So what was the last thing you saw that brought out that feeling in you? So I was recently struck by the Tiny Chef show being axed. It was a show on Nickelodeon. The show got cancelled, and instead of just quietly disappearing, the team rallied and they actually reenacted the call of being axed. So the tiny chef was on the phone to Nickelodeon, and he ended up just sitting on that chair behind him and crying. And they put it online, and it sort of it broke the fourth wall, and then it broke the internet, and it was beautiful and it was bittersweet, and I just thought it was absolutely brilliant and so simple. But you guys all see brilliant things every day too. But have you ever spent the time to put into, to find the words about how or why they work? So that's what we want to try now, is to think of something you've seen recently that's stuck in your mind. You probably used it as a reference in a proposal. So don't think too hard about it. No one needs to impress anyone. It's really just think about something you've used in the last 2 weeks as a reference to create something else. Want you to get an image up of it. I've got a bit more music to play, but stare at this thing that inspired you and let it trigger you. And then we're going to start to think about what is so good about it. Hope we all got something. Let's look at it and let's describe why it's so damn good. We're just going to use single adjectives. I've got some prompts which you can use or you can ignore and come up with your own words, but we're going to do these ones quite quickly. So I'd like you to tell me about its art direction in one word. I've put up some prompts here that may be totally irrelevant or could make you think of something else. But when you think about the art direction of this thing that you thought was incredible, what's it like? Was it gritty? Was it retro? Was it minimal? Was it cinematic or was it quirky? Was it psychedelic? Was it bleak? You tell me. You can pick one of these or put down whatever comes to your mind. Now talk to me about its pace. Was it languid? Was it cartoony and bouncy? Was it measured or did it move at breakneck speed? Was it jumpy? Again, if you're a graphic designer and you don't work in motion, it might be difficult to talk about speed. I am totally from a motion perspective. So what was its vibe? A vibe is a loose word, but you know that there's something there. Did it feel epic? Did it feel uber hip? Did it feel palpable? Or could it felt dystopian? Did it have a highly technical feeling? You tell me. Now, how did it end? Did it end abruptly or did it end slowly? Did it resolve with a giant motion graphic title sequence that gave it a whole new twist, in which case it might have ended surprisingly? Was it depressing or did it leave you feeling very poignant? And after it ended, how did you feel? Did you feel enlightened? Did you feel emotional? Did you feel overwhelmed? Or did you just feel plain old happy? And when you think about how you felt, was there a strange second note to it? Were you left feeling strangely philosophical or angry? Or were you inspired? Were you even just feeling sleepy, having been through such a huge cathartic experience? There are no right answers to any of this, and this is by no means a complete list of responses. And now I talk a lot about secret sauce because I think everything has a secret sauce. So what was the secret sauce at play in this amazing thing? I used to think that a secret sauce was just one thing that you could just put your finger on and go, that's the essential element. But as I've thought about cooking more, and anyone who's made a sauce knows that there are always multiple ingredients at play in any sauce. So if we're to give this sauce a name, what are the two killer ingredients here? Let's make one an adjective and mix that with a noun. If I was to make a secret sauce for Tiny Chef, it would be super cute mixed with pathos. What about yours? Ricky, have you got any ideas for a secret sauce? Well, firstly, what was the thing that what did you see recently?
Recently, what I saw, but what I use as a reference is the Staircase titles by Swarovski.
Right.
It was for a Netflix series, and it was just the opening titles for that.
And what did you love about it?
I just like the story. It was the story within the story, and trying to help explain a few themes that would play out throughout the rest of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you were to try to put your finger on what was going on there, what's the sort of adjective and noun we can combine to describe it to me so I get why it's so amazing?
I was still going there. Adjective duplicitous.
Duplicitous. Ooh, big word.
Yeah, I was trying to wait.
Double five-letter word.
And the noun, I guess, uh, smooth. Maybe is that a noun?
Smooth, yeah. Smooth duplicity.
Yeah, yeah, which kind of leads itself to the main character, really. So,
Right. I want to see it. The staircase. Oh, Albert, what inspired you? What have you seen recently that made your hair stand up on end?
Um, so I work in the area of graphic recording. So we capture key ideas from events live and in real time.
Cool.
Um, and I attended a conference recently where our counterparts in UK, it's a company called Scriberia,
Yeah.
were doing what we were also doing. So while the speaker was talking and sharing what knowledge he had, they
Yeah.
were off to the side and summarizing everything through drawings.
Yep.
And it was great because it was the first time I've seen someone do what I also do.
Yeah.
And I like it because um, for those of you who are familiar with the kind of work that I do, a lot of them stick with very simple drawings because you have to draw really quick, really fast. You have to capture the ideas really quick, taking these visual notes. But the way they do it, just watching them work, it's the artwork is significantly more polished. And a big part of that is because, in terms of their art direction and style, the way they work is more deliberate.
Yeah.
So you'd think even if all of us here in the room, for example, would take meetings, we try to write frantically so that we can capture anything and we don't miss it. But they were a lot more meditative, a lot more deliberate. They weren't in a rush.
Mm.
And just seeing them with the way they work and how that translates to the output of the work was for me very revelatory.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when someone does spend more time on certain areas, they have to make bigger decisions about what's important in the story they're taking rather than just writing things down like some crazy, beautiful mind person going, yeah.
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 So for me, the secret sauce that I came to was um, polished polished visuals with intention.
Ooh, I like it. That leads straight. I was going to do one more exercise on this one where I just wanted you to put it into a sentence, and you have totally done that, Albert. And I think like if anyone else, like if you start to take these different phrases, or you could pick other words and try to articulate again, just using 7 words, just making it really short. But what does this amazing do that other people don't? And I think Albert's kind of nailed it with him. And you do notice that in other people's work when you can step back and I guess appreciate the thinking or the structure they put around it. Sophia, what have you seen that set your world on fire?
Actually, yesterday I saw a title sequence for I don't know if it was a festival in Seville, but yeah, the illustration was next level and it was kind of geometrical with a great color palette, jumping between abstraction and figurative. And yeah, when I finished it, I was like, okay, nothing to do here. But yeah, I remember that because I saw it yesterday and it ruined my day.
And what did you love about it? What made you feel so overwhelmed?
Yeah, yeah, I think I really like when I see that kind of illustration that is really simple and effective. Uh, because I don't know, I feel like as a graphic designer that also illustrates, I feel that is kind of my superpower. So when I see once that someone does it well, uh, I I feel moved. And yeah, this one was beautiful, and it was also kind of retro, and it took some of the elements of the geometry and in the in the tiles in Spain,
Oh yeah.
and it kind of incorporated that in a very abstract way, and I was like, chef's kiss. That really resonated with me.
No, it is amazing when someone can pull out one of those like local ingredients in a place
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
make that a universal theme. Um, yeah, thank you.
yeah.
We can skip that. We've heard enough sad music. Now I want to talk about who's your all-time greatest? Who do you find yourself always going back to? Imagine you're at a bar or a coffee shop and you're in a friendly, heated discussion with a fellow designer who hasn't heard of your favorite mind-blowing, critically underappreciated favorite studio or designer. The fact that they haven't heard of them just kind of totally blows your mind. How could they have missed this extremely important person in the world? This person doesn't know them from a bar of soap, but they need to know them. It could change their life. So I'd like you to describe their style in 5 adjectives. Now, in the last accelerator I ran, we came up with a matrix of words. So you can pick some of these if they describe the style or think of your own. And I've got some thinking music, but try to pick just 5 adjectives. And if you want, make them as diametrically opposed as possible. Or try to think of words with contrast so that you've got like raw, but then stark or cinematic and intriguing. They don't have to necessarily fit together. You can find new combinations. For me, MK12 is still the all-time greatest. I came back to them all the time. When I teach at uni and students haven't heard of MK12, I tear out my old man hair and get all worked up in an old man way. And if I was to think about their secret sauce, I would probably say that it's psychedelic retro shit hot kinetic typography. So why don't you come up with a combo equation for your greatest of all time designer? Um, because there are lots of Australians on the call and we love swearing. I think, pick a style, mix it with some enthusiastic swearing, and then add a technique on it. But see if you can come up with a secret sauce combination for your favorite designer of all time. So finally, we've got one last project. Let's think about the work that made you. And I wanted you to think about what was the project in your career or your studio's birth that changed everything? What was a project that you worked on that broke through and it validated your career choice and suddenly made you realize you'd made the right decision, that this decision to do this thing that you're now doing was going to pay off and it was going to work out? And I think it's interesting when you think about some of these jobs and you think about where did it come from? Because some of it comes from connections, some of it comes from reputation, and some of it just comes from sheer luck. You have no idea where these jobs come from. And sometimes that's worth noting. I've certainly had opportunities float into my life and I had no idea where they came from. And when I tried to replicate them, I couldn't get that magic back again. But some of this has to do when you start talking about what is your value. And before we start looking at the value that you brought to this project, I want to talk about positioning because the best positioning you write, and often the most authentic positioning when it comes to giving yourselves a niche, speaks to your value. So your bog standard positioning is when a company says, we do X services for Y industry. It might be we make motion graphics titles for the cinema industry, or we make floor tiles for the housing industry. That is, you need to be able to answer this question, if not just to tell your parents what you do. But when you're looking to tell a bigger story about the value that you bring, it can be seen from several different angles, all of which are valid. There's no one right way to say what your value is. And your authenticity and your passion is always going to cut through as clients look for trusted partners. They want to know someone believes and loves what they do. But importantly, what's the wildly important notion that they need to remember you for after you've left the room or the call? There's always one thing that is really, really important. It could be, I'm a character animation studio, or it could be, I'm a visual scriber. It could be, I'm a graphic designer, but there's often one thing that's probably the most important. So what's the one thing they need to know above all else? And it could be your style. But whatever it is, you need to make it clear what you want to be known for because they're going to label you how they see fit, and that label will stick. On a recent weekly briefing call, we were talking about how someone told a story about an agency that they were talking to, broke down the three studios' qualities that they were seeing pictures from. And basically, all of them had spent weeks doing these pictures. All of them had come in and presented for half an hour. But when they asked the agency who they were, they said, well, Studio X were funny, Studio Y had great taste, and we've got a long-standing history with Studio Z. I can tell you that in my past, I used to do a lot of cartoons about pandas, and for a while I became the panda guy. And I can tell you that not many panda jobs came up. So you want to be careful about how you get known and what you think this one thing you want to get known for is at the moment. And remember, this is going to evolve through your career. It's not going to be carved in stone and hang around your head. But definitely right now, when you're focusing on marketing and you're talking to new people, what's the thing they need to know? And I think what's interesting about value is it comes from several different angles. You could sit on either side of being informed by the work you've done or driven by the work you want to create. And similarly, your value could come from having unique processes about how you do it, or it could be driven by your values themselves, what you believe. All of these are just as important as the other. And they actually lead to each other, but you've got to pick where you start or what you want to be known for because you can't do all things at the same time. So in terms of clients that RevThink work with, we've got a client called Swarovski in Chicago, and their reputation comes from all the Marvel titles they do. They did Captain America, they did Doctor Strange, and Aaron Swarovski and her team. Lots of people come to them because they want that Marvel magic. So it's the legacy of what they've done in the past. But then their experience in bringing the spirit and the story of a film together in a tight post-credit sequence is one of their secret sauces, which they combine with the taste of their team of designers to create something new. But it's drawing from their legacy first and then following through to a different axis. On the flip side, Laundry in Los Angeles are out there posting experiments and style frames. They're constantly out there showing what they're developing and what they're inspired by. And even without using many words, they're known for having a visual point of view, which they can bring to clients and lean into to create something fresh but long lasting for a new project. So let's go back to that project, the job that you had that started everything. Why did you win that project? I would like you to just come up with 5 unrelated words that describe why you got the job. Was it your reputation? Were you collaborative? Did you take the lead? Were you assertive? Or was it your taste? Were you incredibly stylish? Was it based on a previous job? Or was it just dumb luck? I bet it was more than just dumb luck. Yeah, Albert?
So when I think about this, one of the things that keeps coming back to is that the answer might not necessarily have to do with the quality of the work output itself.
That's okay.
So it might be in the way we deliver the service, the way we're easy to work with. Do those count?
They totally count. Everything is a value. I think it's just being clear about what it is. And certainly in your industry, it's about being responsive and it's about being quick, but it's also being like you need to have a very high level of empathy and you need to have a high level of understanding. There might be something also about, I guess, being intuitive and the fact that you really get what your clients are on about so that you can break down their stories as they're telling them on a whiteboard. But yeah, not everything has to be about being super fancy and super expensive. And I think that's what's interesting with, I guess, the range of people who are on the call today.
Matt,
Hey, Steve.
Matt,
Yeah,
hey, how you going? Can I just tell a little, make a little comment about that?
please.
At the end of every year, I sort of go to my clients and ask them, what they like about us. And quite a while ago now, probably about 5 years ago, I asked one of my clients, why they work with us, and had a little debrief over lunch. And I was sort of wanting, maybe my ego was wanting him to say I'm a really good cinematographer, I make amazing work, I've got great creative ideas. And she just went, oh, you're fast and friendly. Which at the time I sort of was a bit of a backhanded compliment. But in hindsight, that's actually what we based what we do around. So it's more about the process than what we actually do. But yeah, so we try and stay fast and friendly.
Yeah, no, of course you are a great cinematographer and a wonderful scriptwriter too, but I would also say that you're very fast and friendly. And if that's what people are looking for and that's what your clients are looking for, that's not a bad thing. And you got to lean into it. I think sometimes our ego gets in the way of how we want to represent ourselves, and it takes a certain maturity to step back and go, well, that's how they see me. I'm going to be the best version of that I possibly can. And that's what I need to deliver. Thanks, Steve. That was, yeah, right on. Now, in one short sentence, describe what your work achieved. Did you launch a website? Did you create a 30-second TVC? Let's just get the deliverable out of the way, because then we want to start talking about the value of it later. But what did you do? And this is the slide I didn't finish, but I meant to finish later on. But I'm just going to have to speak it rather than having everything on the screen. As opposed to what you do, let's think about what you like. And I think, Stephen was talking about being fast and friendly. Albert was talking about being, how he's got a high level of understanding. He, has great comprehension ability. I mean, some of these words aren't the sort of terms that you might think about, but what are some of the words they might have said about you? And what are some of the words you think they should have said? Maybe there's a new flip on fast and friendly, Steve, that you haven't explored. There could be a super expensive version of that. But There could be words like surgical or hyper imaginative or witty. There are many qualities that you'd like to be worked with on a job. And I think what's good is picking 5 words that aren't related. Don't write a sentence, but just try and put out some terms which you think you would like.
It should be what are we like, right? Not aspirational. What do we want to be like?
Yeah, yeah. What do you actually like rather than how would you like your mother to talk about you? Because your mother is always going to say really nice things. That's one of her jobs. But unfortunately, she's not a client. So if I've done my job right at this point, I'm hoping that you all have a big page of crap in front of you and lots of words. And I think all of these words are things that you've ascribed to other people's work and some values that you've picked up from clients. But here's what I find interesting about where I'm trying to go with this is that you've never talked to any of these studios or directors. Steven's had lunch with his clients, but lots of us haven't. Lots of us haven't had that extensive debrief where we get them to tell us what we really like. And all these terms that you've been writing down in these words are in fact you talking about you. It's not them talking about you. And this is a phenomenon called psychological projection. And so just say you meet a complete stranger and they start telling you a story about a place that you've never been to, doing things that you've never done. To make sense of this story and to give it context, you're going to frame it through things that you know, as you've never been where they've been. And the funny thing is, I think particularly with AI, when you start reading transcripts of conversations you have, sometimes it's shocking how much information just isn't there, but you've imagined and done so much imaginating yourself. And the funny thing is, you're not even aware of doing it. You think you're listening to people and taking it all in, but really, we all hear things through a lens of what we know. And this is called psychological projection. It's a mental mechanism where internal content is mistaken to be coming from the outside. So you're constantly throwing out your story and it comes back in with bits of their story. You start projecting your personal experiences to fill in the gaps so you can understand someone else's subjective world, because no one ever gives you enough information. And the good thing is this is the foundation of empathy. This is where what you know is used subconsciously by your brain to fill in all the gaps when encountering new people and things. And so that's how we build stories about the things we love. That's how we feel that we know Oasis so deeply, or we feel such a bond with David Bowie or Jamie Hewlett. Over our life, we've pulled together snatches of interviews or tweets or photos or whatever information we can find about these niche things that we love. And it all gets jumbled up with our own opinions and experiences so we can stitch together a coherent story about them. And so I want to use that. I want to use these words that you've ascribed to other people in this next scenario. So I want you to picture this. You just got upgraded. And as you wait to board the plane, you notice someone in the queue ahead of you. And they've got great trainers on, and they've got a laptop, and they're talking passionately to their colleague who goes right up and has to sit up the back of the plane. But you two go left, and you're sitting up next to each other in business. And when their seatbelt sign has gone off, they pull up their laptop and they're going through a brand deck filled with great motion typography or footage and great references. It's all the sort of work that you would be perfect to do. And being the ballsy business class designer or filmmaker that you are, you strike up a conversation with them and you say, that's some pretty sweet motion design you got there. And it turns out that they're a senior creative director and they're flying out to see a big client and pitching some new work. And they say, thanks, we're pitching to a big new client tomorrow. I still need to find the studio to make this happen. So I'd like you to look at this page of crap in front of you and look at these words that you've put and look at these connections you've made. And Albert, it doesn't have to be a fancy motion design job. It could be someone writing a new encyclopedia that needs it all scribed in a whiteboard. But think about these powerful words and phrases that you've lovingly written about other people. And I'd like you to use them to describe what you think it takes to deliver award-winning or effective or fast and funny work. Think about how you'd show them how much you love your craft. and how and what you think, what you believe it takes to make memorable work. Now, I'm hoping some of the answers were there in front of you. And Steve, because I know you and I love you, I'm going to ask you, what do you believe, Stephen Hancock? What does it take to make award-winning shit?
Well, in that framework there, I'd say, well, at Contently, we believe those who tell stories rule the world.
I want to have your children. That's and Ricky, because you've got your camera on, what do you believe?
We believe in a considered and I'm trying to get all my words here. I've got them on 5 different pages. We're caring and passionate about what we do, and we go at it with a considered mind frame.
Yeah. And that's as much as it takes. But I think what I think is interesting is whether you think sales and marketing is part of your job, it's undeniable that right now that we all need to be out there building new relationships and finding ways to maintain a consistent presence and thinking of long-term ways to stay visible. Now, I honestly believe that the start of this is finding words that you feel comfortable using and then training yourself and your team to use them. I find it interesting. I've been reading a lot about sommeliers. And like when a barista or a coffee sommelier tells you that a coffee has a hint of orange, they don't just pull this term out of thin air. It comes from an established logic where a hint of orange comes from something being fruity and it might be citrus fruit, and then it becomes orange. So I think there are ways to build an established logic to the terms you want to say so that you can start having these conversations faster rather than feeling like you're going back to the drawing board every time you have to open your mouth or write a piece of content. And building a structure about what you talk about and how you talk about your work is what I do in my Aesthetic Intelligence Accelerator. So we take these words you've started putting to paper today, and then we build them out into a broader pool of vocabulary. So you can get rid of the words that you've heard too much or that are irrelevant and find the ones that speak to your studio's personality. And then hone in on your studio's secret sauce. And then create personas of who you need to be talking to, thinking about what they want and what they need. And also thinking about the nuance of the words you've chosen. I used to love the word cartoony, but I've realized that that was highly triggering for some people because some people think cartoons are for little kids. They don't realize they're for bearded 50-year-old adults. But it was a word that constantly got me into trouble because I was like, it's a cartoon, damn it. Of course it's cartoony, but it needed to be comedic or stark or colorful or arty or dramatic to actually appeal to a creative director's sensibilities. So trying to think about what these words mean to other people rather than just what they mean to yourself is a really good shortcut to actually trying to connect with them. And ultimately, we're trying to match their needs because sometimes it's not just about selling it to them. They have to sell this idea to somebody else. And marketing, which a lot of people hate, I don't think it means you need to drown the internet. I think you can measure the efforts that matter. And when it comes down to it, if you actually start benchmarking how many presentations you've done, or how many awards you've won, or how many social posts, the numbers are quite small. And it's then a matter of looking at which of these actually convert, or which of these actually work. Because when you start doing this, you can start setting goals. You can start analyzing the market. And this is how you start building a sales and marketing strategy and figuring out where you're going to park your taco truck and how much secret sauce you're going to give and who you're going to give it to. For some of the people I worked with last year, I worked with Hung and Ricardo at a studio called Bien, and they used this accelerator to help them make some big decisions in the lead up to their rebrand and the PR campaign. Also worked with Ollie and Caitlin at a studio called Roxbox, again in LA. And they honed in on their strengths, and they're going to be speaking at a big conference called Paradiso in Mexico next year. and they also have a rebrand in the works. So I wrote this workshop to be helpful, and I hope it's been useful in its own right. And I thank you all for coming and making the time. We're hit exactly 1 hour. But if this has spoken to you and you'd like to know more about tapping into your AQ, we're going to kick off an accelerator in 2 weeks. It's going to have 6 seats, and it goes for 8 weeks. And I'd love to have you there. But before we go, and we've got I'll show you how to get there if you actually like to find out more information. That's Matthew Packwood. Hey, Matthew Packwood. So if you're interested, where are we? Share this. Go to RevThink, and you can just scroll down to courses. And it's the only course we're doing at the moment. And you can book in a half-hour call to talk to me. And I'd love to talk to you. But the other thing we want to do is we've created an AQ test. So you can test your AQ right now. And I'm going to put the link in the chat. We whipped it up with the GPT. Let's go. If you go here, where are we? So many screens. It's a test where you can basically, we've got an image from PJ at Laundry, and you then put in words.
We see your slides.
You can see my slide, but not my screen. That's terrible. That's not helpful. Thanks, Matt.
All right.
I had too many windows open. On that one. There we go. So this is it. It'll show you an image. You come up with a name. And then you have to come up with a word or a phrase that describes that image. So I got a 60, but I reckon you could beat me. So if you want to beat me, please do, because I've been on Keynote all day and not coming up with clever words, and you've been coming up with clever words. Oh. Sorry, Luke. I did not get back to you in the chat because I was too busy. That's it. Thank you very much for turning up. Has anyone got any questions, or has anyone got a score? I'm going to leave you to do the AQ test on your own. So we're at lunchtime. You've all got work together to do. But thank you very much for turning up. I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thanks so
I'd love to
much.
speak to you.
Thanks,
Thanks
Matt.
so much, Matt.
See you
Thank you,
guys.
and thanks
Have a good
everyone.
one.
Bye.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.